The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 7 times as I pulled into the driveway of our family estate. The same Victorian mansion that had witnessed 28 years of manipulation, favoritism, and carefully crafted lies. I sat in my car for a moment, watching the warm lights spill from the bay windows, illuminating the manicured lawn my mother took such pride in. My hands weren't shaking. Not anymore. I'd spent the last 6 months preparing for this moment, meticulously gathering documents, making calls, and waiting for the perfect time to reveal what I'd known all along. Tonight wasn't just another family meeting. It was the night everything would change. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. At 32, I looked different from the timid girl who used to live here. My dark hair was pulled back in a sleek bun, my charcoal soup pressed and perfect. I looked like what I was, a successful business owner, not the failure they'd labeled me as. The front door opened before I could ring the bell. Kate, my younger sister, stood there in her designer dress, perfect makeup, and that ever-present smirk. "You're late," she said, voice dripping with fake concern. "Mom's already upset." Of course she was. Mom was always upset with me. It had been her default setting since I chose to start my own business instead of joining the family's real estate empire. I stepped past Kate into the foyer, the familiar scent of lemon polish and old money filling my lungs. Family photos lined the walls. Kate's graduations, her wedding, her first child. Mine had been removed years ago, right after I'd refused to sell my startup to fund Kate's third failed business venture. The living room fell silent as I entered. Mom sat in her usual spot, the high-backed leather chair that Dad had loved before he passed. Her steel gray hair was perfectly styled, her expression carved from granite. Uncle James and Aunt Patricia occupied the sofa, while their children, my cousins Michael and Sophie, perched on the window seat. "Finally decided to grace us with your presence, Alexandra?" Mom's voice could have frozen water. "We've been waiting 20 minutes. I took my seat at the far end of the room, placing my briefcase carefully beside me. Traffic was heavy downtown. I came straight from the office. Kate snorted. "You mean that little consulting thing you're still doing? I thought you'd have given up by now." "That little consulting thing," I said calmly, "just signed its 30th Fortune 500 client." "Ladies," Mom cut in sharply, "we're not here to discuss Alexandra's hobby. We're here because decisions need to be made about the estate." I felt my pulse quicken, but kept my face neutral. "Here it comes. Your father," Mom continued, "left certain provisions in his will that are now becoming relevant. The house, as you know, was meant to stay in the family, to be passed down to someone who would preserve the Barrett legacy." Kate straightened in her chair, practically preening. I fought the urge to smile. "We've discussed this as a family," Mom said, not looking at me. "And we've decided it's time for Kate to take full ownership. She has a proper family, a proper understanding of our values. She'll raise her children here, continue the tradition." "And me?" I asked quietly. Mom's lips thinned. "You've made your choices, Alexandra. You chose to abandon the family business to pursue your own path. You can hardly expect to benefit from the legacy you rejected." "So what exactly are you saying?" "I'm saying it's time for you to move on completely. Kate needs your rooms for the nursery. We'd like you to pack your remaining things and leave your keys by the end of the week." The room was so quiet, you could hear the antique clock ticking on the mantel. Kate's smirk had grown into a full smile, and Uncle James was nodding approvingly. I reached for my briefcase, feeling the weight of the documents inside. 6 months of investigation, of quiet legal meetings, of uncovering what Dad had really done before he died. "That's an interesting decision," I said, my voice steady. "Especially considering Dad already transferred the deed to me 3 years ago. The silence shattered. Mom's face went white. What did you say? I pulled out the property papers, my hands still perfectly steady, and placed them on the antique coffee table. Dad came to see me at my office about 8 months before he died. He knew about the embezzlement, Mom. He knew about the money you and Kate had been siphoning from the company accounts. Kate jumped to her feet. You're lying. Am I? I pulled out another stack of papers. These are the bank records, the transfers, the shell companies you created. Dad found it all, and he knew what you'd do to the family legacy once he was gone. Mom's face had gone from white to gray. Alexandra, stop this nonsense immediately. It's not nonsense. I stood slowly, straightening my jacket. The house is mine. Has been for 3 years. Dad made sure of it before he died, and tomorrow I'm selling it. The proceeds will go to paying back the investors you defrauded. You can't do this, Kate shrieked. This is our home. No, I said quietly. This was Dad's home, and you betrayed everything he built. You have until tomorrow evening to pack your things. I've already notified the authorities about the fraud. They'll be here in the morning to begin their investigation. Mom stood on shaking legs. You would destroy your own family? I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing but a calm certainty. You destroyed this family the moment you chose greed over honesty. Dad knew it. That's why he trusted me with the truth. I picked up my briefcase and turned toward the door. Behind me, I could hear Kate starting to sob, Mom trying to dial her lawyer with trembling fingers. Oh, and Mom, I paused at the doorway. Those worthless dreams you mentioned. They just bought out your biggest competitor. Funny how things work out. The grandfather clock chimed 8 times as I walked out, its sound echoing through the house like a final judgment. In my car, I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. Yes, Mr. Harrison. Everything's set for tomorrow. Have the moving trucks here by 9. As I drove away, I caught one last glimpse of the house in my rearview mirror. It looked different now, more like a monument to lies than a family home. But tomorrow, it would be something else entirely, proof that sometimes justice comes in unexpected ways. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, sunlight streaming through my hotel room windows. I hadn't slept at my apartment last night. Too many memories, too many chances for Kate or Mom to show up unannounced. Instead, I checked into the Four Seasons downtown, the same hotel where Dad used to take me for Sunday brunch when I was little. My phone had 47 missed calls. Mom, Kate, Uncle James, even cousins I hadn't heard from in years. The family grapevine must have been burning up all night. I scrolled through the text messages, each one more desperate than the last. You can't do this to us. Think about your sister's children. Your father would be ashamed. That last one, from Mom, almost made me laugh. If only she knew how many hours Dad had spent in my office, methodically documenting their fraud, preparing for this very moment. At exactly 8:45 a.m., my phone rang. Diana Palmer, my attorney. They're trying to file an emergency injunction, she said without preamble. Your mother's lawyer is claiming the deed transfer was done under duress. I smiled, pouring myself a coffee. And I just submitted your father's video deposition, the one he recorded with the notary present. Judge threw out their claim in less than 10 minutes. How long until they receive the formal eviction notice? Sheriff's deputy is delivering it now. They have until 6 p.m. to vacate. I set down my coffee and walked to the window, looking out over the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Mom was probably having one of her famous meltdowns. Kate would be calling every contact she had, trying to find a way out of this mess. What about the fraud investigation? I asked. FBI's Financial Crimes Unit is already at the house. Your mother's trying to claim ignorance, saying Kate handled all the finances. But the paper trail your father documented, it's airtight. They're both looking at serious charges. I closed my eyes briefly, remembering Dad's face the day he showed me the evidence. He looked so tired, so disappointed. Keep me updated, I said, ending the call. At 10:30 a.m., the moving trucks arrived at the estate, right on schedule. I watched through the security cameras I'd had installed months ago. Mom stood on the front steps, screaming at the workers, while Kate sat in her Range Rover, mascara running down her face. My phone buzzed again. A text from Sophie, my cousin. Is it true? About the fraud? I hadn't expected to hear from her. Sophie had always been different from the rest, quieter, more observant. Yes, I typed back. Dad found out they'd stolen almost $12 million from investors. Small business owners, mostly. People who trusted our family name. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, I had no idea. I'm so sorry, Alex. At noon, I drove back to the estate. The moving trucks were half full now, expensive furniture and precious antiques being carefully loaded. Mom's Mercedes was gone, but Kate's Range Rover remained, parked crookedly on the lawn. As I walked up the driveway, a familiar figure stepped out of an unmarked car. Detective Marcus Torres, Dad's old friend from the police force. He'd been helping us build the case quietly for months. "How's it going?" I asked. He shook his head. "Your mother's lawyer is trying to claim she had a stroke last year, says she wasn't mentally competent when some of these transfers were made. But we found emails going back 5 years. She knew exactly what she was doing." Inside, the house felt hollow. Half-empty rooms echoed with footsteps as FBI agents methodically documented everything. In the study, Kate sat with 2 federal agents, her designer dress wrinkled, her perfect image crumbling. She looked up as I passed. "How could you?" she whispered. "We're family." I paused in the doorway. Family doesn't steal from innocent people, Kate. Family doesn't destroy everything their father built just to fund shopping sprees and fake charity foundations. Dad loved me more, she spat, sudden venom in her voice. Everyone knew it. I was supposed to get everything. I pulled out my phone, clicked play on a video I'd watched 100 times. Dad's voice filled the room, recorded just weeks before his death. "Kate, if you're watching this, I want you to know I saw everything. The transfers, the fake accounts, the way you and your mother manipulated our clients. Alexandra isn't just getting the house. She's getting everything because she was the only one who stayed true to our values." Kate's face crumpled. The federal agents exchanged glances. By 4 p.m., most of the house had been cleared. In the kitchen, I found a photo album shoved in the back of a drawer. Pictures of happier times, family vacations, Christmas mornings, Dad teaching me to ride a bike, while Mom actually smiled. "Miss Barrett?" A young FBI agent appeared in the doorway. "We found something in the basement safe. Documents about other properties, offshore accounts. It's bigger than we thought." I nodded slowly. "I know. Dad found those too. That's why he started documenting everything. Your father was a smart man." "Yes," I said softly. "He was." As the sun began to set, I stood in the empty foyer one last time. The grand staircase that had once seemed so imposing now just looked tired. The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows on walls stripped of their family portraits. My phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Harrison, the developer. "All set for tomorrow's closing. Buyers are excited about converting the property into a community center." I smiled. Dad would have liked that. The house that greed almost destroyed becoming something that would actually help people. Outside, Kate's Range Rover was finally pulling away, packed with whatever she'd managed to save from the federal seizure. She didn't look back. I locked the front door, the sound echoing through the empty house like the final note of a long, complicated song. Tomorrow, everything would change again. But tonight, in the growing darkness, I could almost hear Dad's voice. "You did good, kiddo. You did good." 1 year later, I stood at the window of my downtown office, watching the city lights flicker to life in the early evening. The view was different from the one at the estate, but cleaner somehow, more honest. My assistant, Maria, knocked softly before entering. "The Gazette reporter is here for your interview." I nodded, straightening my blazer. "Send her in." Sarah Chen from the Business Gazette was younger than I expected, but her eyes were sharp. She set up her recorder as I took my seat behind my desk. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," she began. "Your story has become something of a legend in financial circles. The Barrett scandal, they're calling it." I smiled faintly. Interesting choice of words. "How does it feel?" she asked. 1 year after exposing one of the biggest family fraud cases in the state's history, I considered the question carefully. It feels right. Difficult, but right. Your mother and sister were sentenced last month. 20 and 15 years, respectively. Any contact with them since? No. I picked up a framed photo on my desk. Dad and me at my college graduation. They made their choices. Now they're living with the consequences. And the victims? The investors they defrauded? Every penny has been repaid, I said firmly. We sold everything. The house, the vacation properties, their art collection. Combined with the seizure of their hidden accounts, we were able to make everyone whole. Sarah leaned forward. Sources say you could have kept some of those assets legally. The house, for instance. Why didn't you? Because it wasn't just about the money. It was about restoring faith in the Barrett name. Dad spent 30 years building a reputation for integrity. I couldn't let their actions be his legacy. The reporter nodded, making notes. And your company? Barrett Consulting has grown exponentially this past year. I smiled, genuinely this time. We just opened our 3rd office. Turns out there's a market for ethical business practices. Who knew? Your cousin Sophie joined the firm, I understand. Yes, she's heading our new compliance division. Ironic, isn't it? After the interview, I walked to the community center, the former Barrett estate. The renovation had transformed it completely. Where there had once been cold marble and imposing artwork, there were now bright walls covered in children's paintings. The grand dining room was a library. Kate's precious designer kitchen hosted cooking classes for underprivileged youth. Ms. Barrett. Jenny, the center's director, waved me over. The after-school program kids made you something. She handed me a hand-drawn card. On the front, in wobbly letters, "Thank you for giving us a home." I'd blinked back unexpected tears. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. Just landed another whistleblower case. Major tech company. You were right about there being more people like us out there. That evening, I visited Dad's grave. The autumn air was crisp, leaves crunching under my feet, as I placed fresh flowers by his headstone. You should see it, Dad, I said softly. The house is full of laughter now. Real laughter, not the fake kind from Mom's dinner parties. And the business? We're doing it right. The way you taught me. A gentle breeze rustled the trees. I pulled my coat tighter and continued. Kate had her baby in prison last month. A girl. Mom's lawyer says she's still claiming innocence, still blaming everyone else. Some things never change. I sat on the cold ground, not caring about my expensive suit. The reporter today asked if I regret it. Exposing everything, destroying the family. But that's not what I did, is it? They destroyed the family. I just brought the truth to light. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Safi. Emergency client meeting tomorrow. Major bank, possible fraud. You in? I smiled, typing back. Always. Standing, I'd brushed off my clothes and touched Dad's headstone one last time. The Barrett name means something different now. Something better. As I drove home, I passed the old country club where Mom used to parade Kate and me around like trophies. The membership had been one of the first things to go after the scandal broke. Now I heard they'd started a scholarship program for underprivileged kids. Change ripples outward, touching everything in its path. In my apartment, a modest 2-bedroom downtown. Nothing like the mansion I'd grown up in. I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop. Dozens of emails from potential clients, all seeking help exposing corporate wrongdoing. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mom and Kate's actions had inadvertently created exactly what Dad always wanted. A platform for doing good. A final text came through as I was getting ready for bed. An unknown number. You think you won, but family is forever. K. I didn't bother responding. Kate was right about one thing. Family is forever. But not the way she meant it. Real family is built on trust, on integrity, on doing what's right even when it hurts. Dad taught me that. And in the end, I'd proven to be my father's daughter after all. The next morning, I walked into my office early, just as the sun was rising over the city. Maria was already there, preparing for the day. Ready for the new client meeting? She asked. I smiled, thinking of all the twists and turns that had led to this moment. Always ready. We've got work to do. Because that's the thing about truth. It doesn't just set you free. It gives you purpose. And sometimes, purpose is the best revenge of all.